Cheeky breeky my faggot, so I'm going berserk, sent me this thread of some mad cunt on keyboard thought a Soviet rebreather would work fine for scuba diving equipment. Let's just say things go wrong, seriously wrong. This guy will be remembered like commando chemicals. Hello K. Been interested in diving and recently bought myself a Soviet IP5 rebreather, mainly because I am Australian and diving gear is expensive shit. I also need to do a course to obtain my qualification to dive, so I opted for another option. I will be using it to dive up to 15-20 m, probably even more, using it mainly for rivers and such. Only worry I have is if the canister is confronted with the air water somehow it will set on fire, which will kill the diver, but I'm willing to take the risk. Video of the one I go. Be swimming underwater. Haha, don't have to worry about drowning. Something happens to the canister and I catch on fire. Underwater. I've currently got a polished canister with my mask all brand new. Checked it out. Seems very secure. I can't see how you'd puncture it or have it exposed to water without again puncturing it or getting shot and it hitting the canister. I'll most likely go out later on to the beach. Don't want to be seen wearing it, so I'll give you guys a note on if it's good or not. Fucking seller originally didn't want to sell me the canister because he knew I wanted it for diving. Had to lie and say it was for collecting and that I wouldn't risk it. I will be using it to dive up to 15-20 m. Isn't the thing with rebreathers that you can't dive deeper than the depth where you need to breathe special mixture and follow decompression standards? It's an expensive hobby. Thousands of buckaroos. It's fun F and PPDS are neat if you want to blow up a fish. A diver at 6 meters 20 featuring may be able to dive for many hours without needing to do decompression stops. At depths greater than 40 meters 130 featuring, a diver may have only a few minutes at the deepest part of the dive before decompression stops are needed. I'm in the safe. That's not necessarily what would happen. The canisters don't always catch fire. Be swimming along. Haha, so much air, this is amazing. Water gets into the canister, begins releasing caustic gas into your breathing supply. Chemical burns to 90% of your lungs before you can pull mask off, and then you die later at the hospital because there's literally nothing that modern medicine can do for chin burns to the lungs, short of a full replacement. If you're only looking to do shallow dives for less than an hour, just get real fucking scuba gear, dude. Where do you get refill for the cans? Aren't they expensive? That's not necessarily what would happen. The canisters don't always catch fire. OP here. The problem is, it has a very violent reaction. So you can be sure it will catch fire, even I will admit, but see here. I don't see how you will puncture it. I'm in the safe. I'll test out the water slowly and go to about 7 meters and then go on real dives. Cheaper, about 40 euros for 4 canisters which are brand new and polished. A diver at 6 meters 20 featuring may be able to dive for many hours without needing to do decompression stops. They don't have to decompress, period. Your blood doesn't saturate with compressed gas at that depth. At depths greater than 40 meters 130 featuring, a diver may have only a few minutes at the deepest part of the dive before decompression stops are needed. Decompression stops are needed at any depth greater than 20 feet dependent on how long you spend at that depth. There's a reason dive charts exist and why most divers will do a 3-minute stop at 20 meters prior to surfacing. I'm in the safe. No, you think you're in the safe. I don't see how you will puncture it. Time makes fools of us all. Also, running into a fucking rock and having all your body weight behind it can also cause that. Or, yeah, no, depth could crush the canister. Seriously, why don't you just get a scuba tank and a BCD? Time makes fools of us all. Also, running into a fucking rock and having all your body weight behind it can also cause that. That's possible, but very unlikely. Or, yeah, no, depth could crush the canister. Won't ever happen at depths of 15 m, not even at 20 meters. 20 meters is probably around 28.46 c 1.948 m. I think people worry too much. Anyway, picture related. Canisters. OP gonna get himself killed. OP, you're being a really stupid motherfucker. Unless of course you have no friends or family who will miss you when you die and or were planning on committing suicide anyway. The gear has not been regularly maintained or checked and presumably has no logbook associated with it. Rebreather kits can be deadly, at least you seem to know this. Not just because of the aforementioned fire risk but also because of the prospect of producing carbon monoxide. They are an advanced piece of kit which technical divers spend tens of thousands of dollars of their own money on. They often maintain their own kit. If they would trust some surplus Soviet stuff that you can get cheap, do you think that they would spend tens of thousands on their own little boxes of death? You plan on diving with no buddy or shore cover. You are not certified and seem to have a very loose grasp of the concept of decompression, which leads me on to you don't even seem to have a fucking depth gauge or dive watch. At least get a cheap Suunto dive computer, you stupid motherfucker. You will disappear at the bottom of a river. If you are found by chance months or years later, nobody will be able to identify your worm-filled corpse. Pig related is a rebreather that a sane individual would use. Just save up for a dive course and make some friends along the way. Lots of cuties dive too. Get yourself a cutie frogman GF and don't be an idiot. Sources have dived scuba before and was not literally born retarded. That's possible, but very unlikely. There's very little chance that my 20-year-old Soviet-made canisters, which were designed to be used as a last resort method to escape to a place with safe breathing air, that I have zero training with, will fail when used for a purpose other than what it was designed for. FTFY. Won't ever happen at depths of 715 m. Not even at 20 meters. And the Titanic will never sink. Again, why don't you go the safe route and just get a scuba tank? The gear has not been regularly maintained or checked and presumably has no logbook associated with it. Well, to be fair, I checked it over myself. Seems all good. No holes. Tubing is good. Tried it on and tested it and it works good. I already spent about 120 on my Soviet diving gear with extra canisters and everything else, so I don't want to now have to spend more for a dive computer. I already have a watch which I'll put a timer on. It can go to depths of up to 200 meters, so it won't have problem underwater. My canister also lasts up to 2 hours underwater. Again, why don't you go the safe route and just get a scuba tank? Too expensive, mate. I also need to be qualified to use one and dive with one. Getting qualified is a pain in the ass, takes time, money, and sitting through boring instructors. Too expensive, mate. How expensive is it exactly? It's a hobby. You're going to put time and money into it eventually. If you can't afford the gear, why not train to dive without a tank? This nigga's life is only worth 120 bucks. Getting qualified is a pain in the ass, takes time, money, and sitting through boring instructors. Famous last words. Winging it is begging for troubles. Better to give out the extra in your shekels for gear that won't increase your chances of dying exponentially than to have faith in sketchy Soviet shit that not even they'd use. And so help me God, if you waste quads like that again, I will personally kill myself on the day of your near death so I can kick your ass for eternity for being a complete twat wiffle. Well, to be fair, I checked it over myself. Seems all good. Everything check out in accordance with your training and your equipment manuals. Everything up to spec. So I don't want to now have to spend more for a dive computer. So what? You're just gonna eyeball your depth and dive timetables? My canister also lasts up to 2 hours underwater. It lasted that long when it was made. Now, who knows? Too expensive, mate. I also need to be qualified to use one and dive with one. Too expensive, mate. I also need to be qualified to use one and dive with one. You can buy a used regulator and a used tank for about 80 more than what you paid for your questionable Soviet nonsense. I also need to be qualified to use one and dive with one. You need to be qualified to use that rebreather and dive with it, but I don't see that stopping you. Getting qualified is a pain in the ass, takes time, money, and sitting through boring instructors. And saves you from dying while diving because you don't know what you're fucking doing. And what if your can starts producing monoxide? What if you get distracted by the majestic beauty of the natural world and stray down to 15 meters because you don't have a depth gauge? Mate, I can't stop you being an idiot, but if you're set on it, I would urge you, for the sake of your friends and family, to not use the thing for longer than 15 minutes in anything deeper than a duck pond. Please don't reuse canisters either. Oh, it's still got 20 minutes on it. She'll be right is not a safe way of diving. And please at least take someone with you to sit on the surface and call an ambulance if anything goes wrong. All the boring instructor shit is boring for a reason. It's keeping you and your buddies safe. FFS mate, you are beyond help. You are literally the poster child for scuba diving fatalities. You meet all the criteria to be another statistic. When people go to dive schools, they will tell stories about you before saying that scuba diving is a very safe hobby as long as you don't do what this idiot did. The students will have a nervous chuckle to themselves and be thankful they aren't as stupid as the guy who bought an old Soviet rebreather from the internet who thought he could eyeball his depth in a murky river whose body caught fire while being retrieved by the water police when his equipment got caught on the remains of an old jetty. Thread, you got yourself a cool piece of militaria. OP, mount it on the wall and keep it there. Everything check out in accordance with your training and your equipment manuals. Everything up to spec. Well no, but then again it's not all electronic stuff or as sophisticated as the rebreathers you can get now. So it's rather easy to check if it's working good or there is a hole somewhere in the tubing. So what, you're just gonna eyeball your depth and dive timetables? I used to swim a lot, so I have a good feeling of the depths. 15-20m is hard not to notice. You can buy a used regulator and a used tank for about 80 more than what you paid for your questionable Soviet nonsense. Where you need to be qualified to use that rebreather and dive with it, but I don't see that stopping you. Well, it is Soviet gear and publicly available, so I don't see how. When buying scuba gear, especially tanks or getting them refilled, I'm positive you need to show them your diving license. And what if your can starts producing monoxide? I'm currently looking up the effects and what to do if the situation arises. I'll prepare myself. At least take someone with you to sit on the surface and call an ambulance if anything goes wrong. Got no one to go with me. I don't have friends. But before anything whinges, I don't get depressed and I actually enjoy life and love shooting guns. But that's why I can't go with no one. I'll also go later tonight so I don't get caught out, I said, and get in trouble by the police. I spent good money on it. I physically and mentally can't just discard it, I have to use it now. Holy fucking shit, you're dumber than the Alan that gassed himself. Don't get memed by the sunk cost fallacy anonymous. You now have a cool piece of militaria to entice your new cutie frogman GF back to your place with. AIBB want to see my mint Soviet rebreather system shall cream. Save up for a proper course kit. Go dive with normies and make friends. Well no, but then again it's not all electronic stuff or as sophisticated as the rebreathers you can get now. That doesn't change the fact that you have no idea what to look for when inspecting it. Hell, you don't even know if those canisters have an expiration date for use. You're just assuming they'll work. I used to swim a lot, so I have a good feeling of the depths. The timetables for the bends from 15 meters to 20 meters are radically different. You're asking to get hurt. Where? Excluding shipping, but you also get a computer with the tank and the octopus and reduce your risk of dying. When buying scuba gear, especially tanks or getting them refilled, I'm positive you need to show them your diving license. Nope. You can buy gear and have your tanks filled without any certification whatsoever. I'm currently looking up the effects and what to do if the situation arises. I'll prepare myself. Let me explain what happens. You feel a little lightheaded. You may smell an acidic smell. You feel tightness across your forehead. Then you pass out. I'll also go later tonight so I don't get caught out, I said, and get in trouble by the police. And you're adding on night diving to your already insanely stupid and dangerous dive. You're literally asking to die, dude. Last known sighting of OP as he enters the water for his first and last time. Bro, you will fucking die from CO before you know what to do. Especially at depth. It isn't like it has a pronounced effect, and when you notice it, you will be too far gone to do much. Is Soviet era gear even trustworthy? No. Story. If you wear a closed circuit rebreather without a working O2 supplying cartridge, then it's possible to asphyxiate to death whilst wearing it. The CO2 is removed out the air you breathe, which stops you feeling the characteristic burning of suffocation that high CO2 levels produce, and you won't notice the O2 levels and the recycled air dropping until you begin suffering the debilitating effects of hypoxia, and by the time you suffer hypoxia you may not be able to focus or manipulate the rebreather system with enough dexterity to remove it before you lose consciousness. Leave it to the pros. OP. A guy said he was gonna make some chlorine gas to test his new gas mask. Then posted some pics of pretty badly faked burnt dead flaking skin inst supposed to be red in and of itself when there's no blood around, you know, as he pretended that the chemicals were burning his exposed skin. I also need to be qualified to use one and dive with one. No you don't. There is no law stating you need to be qualified to use scuba. I have a feeling OP will still go ahead with it. Very high quality goods. Take the PADI open water course. OP. Casual diving is not hard provided nothing goes wrong. But the course teaches you what to do when SHTF. From there work your way up through different certs if you want to do more technical dives and whatnot. Also diving gear is not cheap and IDK really know how much I would trust a surplus Slav rebreather. Where did you get it? IDK really know how much I would trust a surplus Slav rebreather. I wouldn't trust that thing on dry land. Test it in the tub or something first. There's a quarry near me, I might test mine in. How much weight do I need? 20 meters is probably around 28.46 C 1.94 ATM. Probably 20 kilograms. I'd say let's watch the headlines for some dumb fuck or sea shit washing up dead on the riverbank. But hopefully a bull shark eats his corpse. You're fucking retard OP. You have abo levels of critical thinking and foresight. People die with quality gear all the time never to be seen again, and you think surplus Soviet era shit will keep you from being crab food rotting on the riverbed. How about you go buy a GP5 and try your hand at mixing bleach and ammonia? Fucking Aussies. Every time. That doesn't change the fact that you have no idea what to look for when inspecting it. If it doesn't leak oxygen, has no holes, and works when all connected, it's good to go. So roughly 250 Australian dollars for 2 pieces of equipment. Overpriced. I'm going to put weights around my waist. I'll try small increments of 3-5 kg. You need a BC weights and you make adjustments accordingly. At least that is what you do with standard scuba gear. OP array breather is much more complicated and you will end up fucking it up. Respect. Hypoxia's no joke. Come to think of it, how would the efficiency of these cans fall off? Good for 2 hours doesn't make much sense to me. How would that change if OP was hyperventilating? Is it producing a set volume of O2 per second? I just googled chemical O2 generators and they seem to work at much higher temperatures than you'd want in a tin strapped to your chest. I guess the CO2 scrubber works off total CO2 absorbed as well. I doubt it's working as well at 1H30 as it was at 0 minutes is all I'm thinking. Is it guaranteed to start making CO as it gets saturated, or would CO only come about as a manufacturing error? How the fuck is OP happy with this shit? The O2 source is just a small pressurized gas canister, no chemical reactions involved. The chemistry in a rebreather is when the CO2 is removed. If water should enter the oxygen generating canister, it will burst into flames. I know it's 4chan and all, but this is 100% not a joke. Good luck. OP, I wanna do a stupid thing. Is it a bad idea? K, don't do the thing. It's a bad idea. It could kill you a whole bunch of different ways. OP, I'ma do the stupid thing anyway. I really do despair sometimes. K is the only place where niggas will be scared of half a thimble full of asbestos and gas mask filters. But at the same time attempt to use an apparatus that can kill them in several different ways if they don't know what they are doing. Amazing. Well, reading up on shit, it turns out the Soviet military ones do. In fact, not using gas canisters, the CO2 scrubbing chemical ends up releasing O2 as it does its thing. Which is also why you see so many people warning about punctures. It takes some seriously nasty shit, potassium dioxide in this case, to spontaneously turn CO2 into O2. But yeah, a pressurized O2 canister that's been sitting around in God knows what conditions for God knows how long wouldn't seem very safe to me, and the same goes for a can of KO2. It's our plans to breath asinine gas underwater and tells K about it episode. If it doesn't leak oxygen, has no holes, and works when all connected, it's good to go. That's really not how rebreather inspections work. So roughly 250 Australian dollars for 2 pieces of equipment. Overpriced. Recently serviced tank. First stage regulator. Second stage regulator. Computer. Depth gauge. Backup second stage regulator. Sure, overpriced. Please leave some way to let us know when you die because you were being cheap. Hey up, don't listen to these facts. Hi, I'm Phil Swift. If you got holes in them funky cans or that fancy rubber, just slap some flex tape on them. You'll be safe for your money back. Put me in the screen cap when OP kills himself. Nothing gonna happen. I used such mask in Russian army. It's great. Great price. I suggest you buy 2 or 3 and save for keeping in case something happen. If buy box of them, even better. Good resale value, my friend. You want to buy? I'm currently looking up the effects and what to do if the situation arises. I'll prepare myself. Holy shit, Anon. You are the densest motherfucker K has seen in a long time. Make sure to stream your adventure just to make sure you get the Darwin Award you so richly deserve. What's the danger? Wikipedia describes it well. When compared with open circuit scuba, rebreathers have some disadvantages, including expense, complexity of operation and maintenance, and more critical paths to failure. A malfunctioning rebreather can supply a gas mixture which contains too little oxygen to sustain life, too much oxygen which may cause convulsions, or it may allow carbon dioxide to build up to dangerous levels. Some rebreather designers try to solve these problems by monitoring the system with electronics, sensors and alarm systems. These are expensive and susceptible to failure, improper configuration and misuse. Oxygen rebreathers simple closed circuit are limited to a shallow depth range of approximately 6 meters, beyond which the risk of acute oxygen toxicity rises to unacceptable levels very rapidly. Semi-closed circuit rebreathers are less efficient than closed circuit, and are more mechanically complex than open circuit or closed circuit oxygen rebreathers. Closed circuit rebreathers are yet more mechanically complex, and generally rely on electronic instruments and control systems to monitor and maintain a safe breathing gas mixture. This makes them more expensive to produce, more complex to maintain and test, and sensitive to getting their circuitry wet. Depending on the complexity of the rebreather, there are more failure modes than for open circuit scuba, and several of these failure modes are not easily recognized by the diver without technological intervention. I'm in the safe, I'll test out the water slowly, and go to about 7 meters and then go on real dives. Okay, diver guy here again. You don't seem to understand that if something goes wrong you've got about 30 seconds until you die. 7 meters is a long way to recover from if something goes wrong. You are all kinds of fucking stupid. You really need to understand this. OP here, I am back. Went to the shops and bought some supplies, torch for underwater, knife etc. My bags are already packed and I rechecked the mask and canister, and I will be heading out to the beach now. Wish me luck, and if everything goes smoothly I will post a thread later on tonight, or tomorrow morning. Until then, goodbye. Not OP, but is there really risk of CO if this is a KO2 kit? I'm not sure there's scope for CO production if his CO2 scrubbing packs up his O2 does too, so he'll get forced up by his urge to breathe. OP is still retarded for diving decades old surplus kit of questionable build quality with no body, no training and an inability to even read the fucking manual. But the principle actually seems sound. What am I overlooking? Pics with timestamp, you moron. Also call the news so we are sure to read about your death in tomorrow's news. Using questionable Soviet surplus kit outside its intended use risks death or brain damage for minimal gain. Forgoes basic survival equipment time. Depth gauge but takes a fucking knife. Is this guy PK? When you actually believe Slav gear is best gear, Aussie actually has the nerve to not even get a depth gauge but instead buys a knife. Damn good knowing you OP. Holy shit, it was even a fire. Could this be the fucking OP?
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain, I ingest, I retain.
W the absolute mad lad fucking did it. Godspeed OP. I'll see you in Valhalla so I can call you a faggot for eternity. Be Russian. Live in Australia. Hate the US. Believe in Russian propaganda. Believe everything that came out of country is much superior than everything else out. Buy 30-year-old rebreather that was designed for emergency use. Discard of American technology. Decide to use this emergency rebreather from 30 years ago as a dive kit which has never been tested, checked, or has a logbook with it. Don't but a depth dive watch. Instead opt for a knife. OP mentions the rebreather is and can be very harmful. In fact it isn't, it can kill you with an explosion if you pierce the canister, or if water gets inside and it does not blow up. The OP will be inhaling toxic hot gas that would melt his lungs. Dives at night and brings no one because he has no friends. You cannot get more K than this. Good luck, man. The guy only wanted to save some money but instead made it into the hall of legendary commanders like Grenade Guy and Commando Chemicals. Be sure to check out the Discord and like and subscribe for more.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now. This is cancer. This is so much cancer that I can feel the tumors growing on my back. And it's way down heavy on me, and it's not okay. Can you help a nigga out and just stop this? Please?